Some stories crawl out of the grave. Others are buried beneath ice and silence. From the bone-dry heart of the Australian outback to the snow-blind trails of Siberia, terror doesn't knock, it waits. Here, we tell the tales that stay with you long after the fire's gone out. Zombies, vanished hikers, unsolved deaths, end-of-the-world whispers that echo through time. This is Aussie After Dark, the place where the line between fact and fear disappears. So light a candle, lock the doors, and don't blink. Because the story you're about to hear might just be true. And if you can take a second to subscribe, it really motivates and helps to continue these stories. Also in the comments below, let me know where you're from, and we might just pop up there. So let's join David and the survivors once more. The preacher woke us before the sun, or what passed for it. Light didn't come the way it used to. It filtered through the fog like something ashamed to show itself. A sickly amber hue, thick and heavy, staining everything in a shade that made the world look bruised. It was cold, but not from temperature. Cold from absence. The cold of a room where someone had died moments earlier. Walker was already up, sitting in the front seat of the van, pistol resting on his thigh. He hadn't moved in hours, just stared through the windshield like the mist might part and reveal some lost salvation. Eva lay curled against me in the back. Her hand still gripped the neck of that grimy koala, but sometime during the night, she'd found my other hand and hadn't let go. The preacher stood outside, still as stone, facing east, arms folded beneath his robe. I slid the door open, boots hitting the wet earth with a soft squelch. The air felt tense, like we were standing on a fault line, just waiting for the earth to remember how to shake. "We need to move," the preacher said without looking back. "They're stirring." I didn't ask how he knew. He was right. We threw what little we had into the van. 2 jerry cans of fuel, Walker's half-full water bottle, a rusted crowbar I didn't remember picking up. The soldier took the passenger seat up front, his limp too bad now to move fast on foot. Eva stayed in the middle row, swaddled in a blanket. The preacher climbed into the back and sat cross-legged, folding his hands like a monk preparing for a long journey. The van started with a cough and a growl. I said a prayer I didn't believe in and drove. We took the back roads again. The city faded into rural sprawl, old farms gone to seed, paddocks turned to marsh under weeks of rain and disuse. The roads narrowed, became veins through the landscape, barely wide enough for the van to pass. Gum trees leaned close on either side, their black limbs clawing at the fog. We passed houses that had collapsed in on themselves, grain silos scorched black, windmills bent in the middle like snapped bones, clotheslines still hung with laundry, fluttering in wind that didn't touch the trees. Walker finally broke the silence. His voice was gravel. They hit the southern flank first. 3, maybe 4 of the big ones. We never stood a chance. "How?" I asked. "How do you fight something like that?" He didn't answer right away, just stared at the road. "You don't," he said. "You run. You hide. You wait for the dying to end." The preacher tapped on the back of my seat. "Stop the van." I glanced at the rearview mirror. "Why?" His eyes didn't blink. "Because they found us." And then we heard it. The sound came not from behind, but above. A metallic screech, high and vibrating, like steel tearing slowly down the middle of the sky. The van shook. Eva whimpered, and I felt her crawl forward between the seats, her small hands clutching my shoulder. Thud. Distant at first, muffled by trees, but it grew louder. Thud. Branches cracked in the distance. Thud. Something stepped into the world. "Keep driving," Walker barked. I slammed the accelerator. The van lurched forward, tires spinning on damp bitumen, mud spraying behind us. The hum returned, louder now. Not just a presence, but a pressure. It pushed on us from every angle, like the world had become a throat trying to swallow us whole. Then I saw it, through the trees, moving parallel to us, maybe 100 meters off. A tripod, towering, obsidian, legs cutting deep into the soil like spears. Its body shimmered, not with light, but with wrongness, like it bent the rules of vision around it. Every step it took distorted the air. It wasn't chasing, not yet. It was watching. The preacher began to hum again, low and steady. A hymn? A chant? I couldn't tell. But it cut through the noise in my head like a knife through cobwebs. The road forked ahead. I took the left. Bad choice. A landslide had buried the road. Mud, debris, a tangle of branches and wire and fence posts. I slammed the brakes. The van fishtailed, tires locking, and for a moment we skidded sideways into the dirt before lurching to a stop. "Reverse!" Walker shouted. But it was already too late. The trees behind us groaned, snapped, and the thing stepped into view. No more fog now, just it. The tripod stood barely 50 meters away, close enough to see the ribs in its structure, close enough to hear the groaning creak of its limbs as if even gravity protested its presence. Beneath its belly, something opened, an aperture, circular, lined with glistening plates that folded outward like the petals of a corpse flower. Inside, a dull white glow began to burn. A beam. "No, no, no, go!" I roared, throwing the van into reverse. I didn't care if I drove backward to the coast. I just needed space. The preacher screamed something in Latin. The light struck the ground just where we'd stopped. No sound, no fire, just unbeing. The road vanished. The beam carved a smooth trench into the world itself. Stone turned to dust. Plants turned to ash. Air turned to static. We tore backward down the road, Walker leaning out the window, firing rounds like pebbles at a mountain. I took the next corner hard, the van tipping on 2 wheels before crashing back down. Eva shrieked. My hands were shaking. My vision swam. But we were moving. Still moving. We burst through a gate, across a farm road, through 2 fields of dry cane, and the sound faded. Slowly, like the eye had turned away. We didn't stop for hours. Not until the van's needle dipped to red. Not until the sky darkened again and the tripods grew distant. We pulled into an abandoned grain shed, locked the doors, covered the windows. Inside, the air smelled like rust and old harvest. Walker collapsed against the wall, out of ammo, out of adrenaline. The preacher sat cross-legged again, whispering into the dark. Eva curled into my side. The hum never stopped, even here, even now. And I realized something. We hadn't escaped. We just bought ourselves one more night to whisper. The grain shed groaned like a wounded beast in the wind. It was old. Corrugated iron over rotting beams, the kind of place meant to house tractors and sacks of barley, not broken people running from the death that walked on 3 legs. Dust hung thick in the air, catching in the throat. Somewhere in the rafters, a bird's nest sat empty, crusted with age. Nothing nested anymore. Eva slept beside me, one hand in my coat, the other still cradling that ragged koala. Walker dozed fitfully, sitting upright, his injured leg stretched out before him, and a rusted tire jack by his side like it might fend off a god. The preacher hadn't moved in hours. Sat cross-legged near the door, eyes closed, mouth whispering prayers in a language I couldn't place. Maybe it wasn't a prayer. Maybe it was something older. A pact. A warning. I almost dozed off. Then I heard it. Not a scream. Not the thud of something monstrous. A voice, human, calling out. I moved slow, reached for the crowbar beside me and crossed to the door. The preacher opened one eye and nodded once, like he already knew. I eased it open. Just a crack. Let the wind roll in. A figure stood at the edge of the field, alone, unarmed, arms up, palms out. A woman. She was maybe mid-30s, sun-browned skin, grease stains on her jeans, her boots caked in ash. A knife was strapped to her thigh, but left untouched. She looked like someone who'd climbed out of a car wreck and kept walking. "I saw your van," she said, loud enough to carry. "I'm not sick. I'm not crazy. I just want to rest." Behind her, 2 more people came into view. A boy in his teens with bandaged hands, and a man with soot-darkened skin, clutching a shovel like it was holy. I hesitated. Then Walker limped up beside me and grunted. She could have screamed for help. She didn't. That counts for something. We let them in. Her name was Sasha. The boy was her nephew, Leo. The older man, no name, just called himself Bren. They had survived a firestorm in the outer districts, watched a tripod descend into a small town and lift whole structures into the sky. Not burn, not break, just harvest, as if the land itself were being sampled. "They don't want us," Sasha said, rubbing dirt off her hands. "Not right away. They're not hunting people like game. They're collecting, processing, like this is all one big lab experiment." Walker scowled. "That's comforting." "They took the soil," Bren muttered from the shadows. "And the water. Drained a whole lake near Kelso. Left fish behind. Split down the middle. Boiled from the inside." No one spoke for a long time after that. That night, Sasha sat across from me as we passed around the last can of beans we dared open. She had a way of moving, efficient, no wasted energy. She didn't ask dumb questions, didn't need rescuing. She'd lost people too. Not a husband, a sister. Leo's mum, gone during the first days. Took their car and went for help. Never came back. "She used to hum to him at night," Sasha said, voice low. "When he cried, that was her thing, humming." Leo didn't look up, just pulled his hoodie tighter. "Now I do it," she added after a beat. "But it's not the same." I looked at Ava, curled asleep on a pile of canvas bags. "I know the feeling," I whispered. Around midnight, the sky changed again. A red pulse lit the clouds, brief but blinding. Then another, and another. We climbed onto the roof to see. All of us. In the far distance, south over the hills, 3 white columns of light had risen. Not searchlights, not electricity. Something alive. They pulsed like heartbeats. From each column, thin lines extended into the sky. Silver threads, rising forever. Harvest beams. The preacher spoke at last. "They are not here to conquer," he said. "They are here to replace." "What does that mean?" Sasha asked. But he didn't answer. He just turned his face to the lights and whispered something that sounded like, "They were here before, and they've come back to finish what they started." The next morning, we left. Sasha rode shotgun. Her rifle, scavenged from a dead trooper outside a pub in Nome, rested across her lap. She checked it 3 times before we left, with the hands of someone who had learned the price of forgetting. Walker took the back row with Bren and Leo, both of them sleeping upright like corpses in a train car. Ava sat beside me. She didn't speak, but her eyes were on the horizon. And behind us, in the mirror, I saw the faint shimmer of legs. Long, gliding, impossibly graceful, moving toward the town we'd left behind. The road stretched ahead in a broken ribbon, blacktop scarred with cracks, weeds pushing through like the earth itself was reclaiming what men had laid down. The van rattled and shuddered. every bump a reminder of how close to ruin it was. For hours, we'd seen nothing. No smoke, no movement, just the wind dragging dust across the empty fields. Then, headlights. At first one, then three, then a cluster. Shadows stretched across the road as a line of vehicles appeared ahead, crawling south like a great iron serpent. A convoy. Survivors. We eased in at the rear, the van groaning under the weight of our gear and nerves. The convoy was a patchwork of humanity. Utes with crates strapped to the back. Motorbikes weaving like restless dogs. A battered bus plastered with peeling footy club stickers. A semi hauling a container with food, "Do not raid," sprayed across the side. Children's faces pressed to glass. Men with shotguns perched on roof racks. Women clinging to the wheel as if by grip alone they could outrun the end of the world. Ava sat up straighter, her eyes wide. There are so many. Sasha didn't look away from her rifle. Too many. Too loud. Walker grunted. Too alive. And that's enough for me. Night settled. The convoy didn't stop. Headlights stretched like a chain of stars across the highway, and I found myself staring at them, half dreaming, as if they were constellations in some new sky. Then it came. The voice, crackling, distorted, breaking through the static of the van's ancient radio. All remaining civilians, this is an emergency broadcast. Humanity is not gone. Repeat, humanity is not gone. My hands jerked on the wheel. Sasha snapped her head toward the dash. Even Walker, who hadn't spoken in an hour, muttered a prayer. The Australian Defence Force is mobilizing. Repeat, the Army is mobilizing. Safe zones are being established south of the Brisbane line. Civilians are advised to head south, stay in groups, and await further instructions. The message looped, each word a hammer beating against the silence of the van. Ava's lips trembled. They're fighting back. They're really fighting back. Bren sat forward, eyes glinting in the half-light. Then maybe it's not over. But Sasha's voice was iron, cold, and unbending. Or maybe this is only the first battle, and we're marching straight into it. The convoy rumbled on, a river of steel and hope and fear all tangled together. Behind us, the north lay in smoke and ruin. Ahead, the south promised salvation, or a greater storm. And for the first time since the world broke, I realized we weren't running anymore. We were being drawn. The convoy grew by the mile. By dawn, it was more than a handful of trucks and sedans strung across the highway. It was a caravan, a beast made of metal and fuel and desperate hearts. Every few kilometers, another straggler joined. A farmer with hay bales tied to a trailer. A pair of tradies crammed in a ute with power tools rattling in the tray. A family in a hatchback so overloaded, the suspension sagged. From above, it must have looked like a vein of light, stretching southward through the darkened countryside. From inside, it felt like the pulse of something still alive. We learned the convoy's rhythm quickly. 3 motorbikes acted as outriders, weaving ahead and circling back, engines whining like wasps. An old man with a wide-brimmed hat rode shotgun in the lead truck, binoculars always scanning the horizon. When fuel ran low, word rippled backward through flashing headlights until the convoy slowed and vehicles peeled off in 2s and 3s to siphon from abandoned stations. There were rules. No one spoke them, but everyone knew. Keep your lights low after dark. Never drift too far from the line. Share food when you can, but guard your water. And above all, if something moves in the fields, keep driving. We made contact in fragments. At a rest stop, a wiry woman with a scar across her jaw passed us half a loaf of bread. She spoke only one sentence: keep the kid close. On the second night, Bren sat with a pair of strangers by a barrel fire. He didn't speak, but his silence seemed to comfort them. One of them, a young woman in an oil-stained jacket, caught my eye as we left. She carried herself with purpose, like someone used to fixing broken things. Later, when she asked for a lift in the van, none of us argued. Her name was Mara. Yet for every kindness, there was a shadow. Arguments broke out at fuel stops. A farmer swung a spanner at a man he swore had siphoned from his tank. A mother screamed when she caught strangers eyeing the tins in her boot. And always, the same rumor whispered from car to car, muttered at firesides, hissed between doors half opened. The army is waiting. South of the line. South of the river. They'll protect us. They'll make this right. The broadcast played again and again, scratchy and broken, as if the voice on the other end was fighting to hold itself together. Humanity is not gone. The army is mobilizing. Safe zones are being established. Head south. Every time it came, people leaned toward their radios like moths to a flame. Every time, Sasha scowled harder, her hand resting on her rifle. "They're not telling the whole story," she muttered. "No one ever does." On the third night, the convoy pulled into an abandoned truck depot. Fires sparked in barrels. The bus driver strummed a guitar with missing strings. Children played between trailers, laughter echoing against corrugated iron. It looked, for a moment, like a town. A fragile, moving town. But above us, the night pressed close. And somewhere out in the fields, far beyond the fires, a shape moved against the stars.